CEO of Macmillan Publishing. That's tonight at 7 and 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Once again, the Dow gains 19 points for the day. I'm Beverly Shook reporting live from the New York Stock Exchange. Stay tuned for Inside Politics coming up next on CNN.
New Hampshire's first-in-the-nation primary is just 8 days away, and most members of the Democratic presidential field are doing campaign duty there.
But Iowa's favorite son, White House hopeful Tom Harkin, is staying home, tending to a major case of caucusitis. He's expected to win number-wise, but will that be enough? It's all part of Inside Politics 92.
This is Inside Politics 92 with Bernard Shaw in Washington and Catherine Crier at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
Thanks for joining us. Well, it's caucus time in Iowa. The state Jimmy Carter probably remembers in his prayers. George Bush goes in today's GOP gatherings unchallenged. But on the Democratic side, the toughest opponent homeboy Tom Harkin faces seems to be his own expectations. But if it's ho-hum in the heartland, there's hot stuff in New Hampshire. With that state's primary a week and a day away, the race seems very much up for grabs. According to the latest CNN USA Today Gallup tracking poll of registered Democratic voters who plan to vote in the February 18th primary, 31% back Bill Clinton, 28% support Paul Tsongas, 13% give the nod to Bob Kerrey. Jerry Brown languishes in single-digit solitude with 8%. Tom Harkin nets 10%, along with other and undecided. The big news in the daily tracking poll trend from February 6th to the 9th, an apparent tightening of the race between Clinton and Tsongas. The Arkansas governor has skidded from 37% to 31%, while the man from Massachusetts has stepped up from 24% to 28%. To delve into the nuances behind the numbers, we turn now to our public opinion specialist, William Schneider. Now, Bill, how can we characterize the Democratic race right now? These numbers are moving around quite a bit.
I'd characterize it, Catherine, as a very fluid race. Only about 40% of the Democrats in New Hampshire say they're strongly supporting the candidate that they're now supporting. We've seen a lot of movement. Basically, two things have happened to Bill Clinton's numbers. He got a boost in name recognition last month, and that pushed his polls standing up. At the same time, his negative ratings have been creeping up. We can see that here over the course of the last week. And as they've crept up, they've pulled his poll standings down. So what's happening in New Hampshire is really going to be a contest to see which of those trends is going to overtake the other.
So, Bill, is this negative factor what's played into Clinton dropping in the last 4 days of tracking?
Apparently so. The other candidates have attacked his veracity. Most voters say they don't particularly care about the issue of marital infidelity or even the draft status, but whether he has told the truth about his relationship with other women, whether he's told the truth about his draft status, and those points seem to be hitting home. Somewhere around 20 to 25% of the other Democrat supporters say they couldn't vote for Clinton if he were the Democratic candidate for president. Doubts are setting in, and frankly, party leaders out there in the Democratic Party are a little bit worried.
Well, Bill Schneider, thanks for a look at the day's numbers. Back to you, Bernie.
In the estimation of pundits, Tsongas and Clinton now are being likened to slow and fast. Can slow, steady really win this race? CNN's Candy Crowley tracks the candidates heading for the home stretch in New Hampshire.
Good to be back. The campaign spotlight is a hot light, and it has melted some of the edge off the presidential campaign of Bill Clinton.
I've never before been questioned in this way about whether there was anything, except by the Republicans, about whether there was anything that would make me unfit to be a public servant after the service that I've rendered. And I just want you to know that I don't know how it's going to come out, but I came to play.
Bogged down by questions about extramarital affairs and his draft status during Vietnam, Arkansas's once comfortable frontrunner returned to New Hampshire's bitter cold Monday to what has become a dead heat.
I just have one thing to say about the next 8 days. I'm going to fight like hell. But I'm going to fight for the people of New Hampshire, the future of this economy, and the soul and direction of this country.
Paul Tsongas, who labored alone for many months on the campaign trail, has begun to take on the trappings of a campaign on the move.
Clearly, we're in a position to get to be heard, and that's nice. But the message still has to resonate, and we're going to take advantage of this.
As Paul Tsongas tries to keep the momentum going and Bill Clinton tries to stop the slide, the Harkin, Brown, and Kerry camps are trying to take advantage of the shifting tides. Still in the game, Bob Kerry hopes to pick up some of the points dropping from the Clinton camp, though he seems unsure how to deflect them from falling to Tsongas.
Any idea how come Paul Tsongas has come up in the polls?
Well, I think he's... I guess I'd actually let Paul Tsongas answer that one as well. I almost got nasty. I don't want to do that.
Kerry says he never expected to take New Hampshire by storm, and he has not. His goal, a respectable third-place showing to keep the campaign running beyond New Hampshire. Promising to continue no matter what happens in New Hampshire, Jerry Brown is running a 60s-style campaign of rebellion, looking to tap into voter disgust with politics as usual. And Tom Harkin, home in his native Iowa for Monday's caucuses, is counting on his lock-cinch victory there to bounce his numbers out of the basement here. After watching and hearing a staggering number of political ads as well as news shows saturated with political comings and goings, New Hampshire could be forgiven for asking what more is there to say. As candidates read the polls, the answer is plenty. There are enough New Hampshire voters either undecided or reconsidering to turn this race upside down. This final campaign week will be dedicated to getting those voters off the fence. Candy Crowley, CNN, Manchester, New Hampshire.
Iowa, that quadrennial happening is about to happen, but with much less fanfare than usual. Let's switch live to Des Moines, Iowa, and CNN's national political correspondent Gene Randall for the latest. Gene?
Well, Bernie, as you know, 4 years ago, Iowa was a focal point of presidential politics. But that was then. In 1992, it is a far different picture here. 4 years ago, even Iowa's pigs snapped up some of the glow of the presidential campaigns. Candidates posed with them. No such luck this time around, fellas. That's because Iowa's favorite son, Senator Tom Harkin, should sweep his way through the Democratic caucuses tonight. Though even today, Harkin was continuing his Iowa campaigning. This followed a busy weekend schedule of caucus Eve events.
We need a good showing Monday night, and I need you to go to those caucuses to give us the kind of boost that we need to go on to New Hampshire.
On the Republican side, President Bush's people have removed any chance he'll be challenged. The Iowa GOP has canceled its caucus straw vote. In short, Iowa's political spotlight has turned into a flashlight.
We don't have any reporters here with the exception of you three.
Well, not quite, but you get the idea. Of course, the Iowa caucus has lost a lot of their glitter 4 years ago. Just ask the winners, Republican Senator Bob Dole and House Democratic leader Richard Gephardt. The eventual nominees, George Bush and Michael Dukakis, both finished third. But this year in Iowa, the bottom fell out. For Democrats, Tom Harkin's entry into the race for president shut the place down.
Tom Harkin's going to win lion's share of delegates on Monday night's caucus. Second place will probably be undecided, simply because no other campaign has actually put together a real effort in Iowa.
A Paul Tsongas campaign aide in Iowa probably spoke for the rest of the Democratic field. What are your expectations here, we ask?
We really have none.
But how about the expectations game? Tom Harkin over the weekend saw a poll that showed him losing strength among likely Democratic caucus goers, from 68 to 54%. And Harkin has said he needs to do better than any Democrat has ever done in the caucuses. President Jimmy Carter got 59% in 1980. And Harkin is urging his supporters to turn out.
I need you to go out, not by yourself. List 5 people you know, get their phone numbers, call them up.
Though polls have begun to show Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton and Paul Tsongas virtually tied, Harkin in Iowa has been aiming at Clinton.
I think that there's just continuing questions being raised about his veracity and about his character, and just one thing after another. And I think that it's going to cause him a lot of problems.
But a baseline question for the Harkin campaign. How does a favorite son make much of a home state victory?
It won't be a springboard for probably anyone, except it will at least send a message to folks that people in Iowa support Harkin's bid. But no kind of springboard like it's been in the past.
Running badly in the polls in New Hampshire, Harkin clearly needs something out of Iowa. If not a springboard, something. 120,000 Democrats took part in Iowa's precinct caucuses in 1988. Predictions for tonight range from 70,000 all the way down to just 30,000. Tom Harkin, meanwhile, returns to New Hampshire Tuesday morning. His aim there is to finish no worse than third in next week's crucial New Hampshire presidential primary. Failing that, there is a feeling even on Harkin's campaign that his bid for the presidency will be over. Gene Randall, CNN, Des Moines.
Thanks, Gene. And straight ahead, we'll add a little insight to the day's political topics. We've called a caucus of the IP political pundits. They convene in just a minute. And later on IP, Rick Allen remembers those long-lost days when Iowa's winter skies were cluttered with satellite dishes.
Inside Politics is brought to you by Payne Weber. We believe our most important investment is an investment in relationships.
Is that a new dispatcher?
That you was here the last time you checked up on me.
So those Rollins guys, they still trying to steal our drivers?
Well, I think I got that under control. My Payne Weber guy set up a 401k. It's a pension plan, so obviously the longer a driver stays...
That must be costing a bundle.
Well, it costs a lot less than constantly breaking in new men.
How does a stockbroker know that you've been having trouble keeping drivers?
He asked.
Where would the movies be without cable? A monthly subscription to basic cable gives you over 600 movies for less than it costs a family of 4 to go to the movies once. Cable contributes to life.
Tylenol users discover a powerful name in aspirin-free pain relief.
It took away my headache. Aspirin-free Anacin worked as well as Tylenol.
Like Tylenol, aspirin-free Anacin is 100% aspirin-free acetaminophen, so it's gentle on your stomach.
Now I have a choice.
In Miami, first half of the season, the Heat went wild and burned the Hawks. Now Atlanta is on a mission for revenge. The Heat visit the Hawks, live at 7:35 Eastern Thursday night on PBS.
On CNN tonight, the ozone and global warming, really harmful or just hype, in the crossfire. Then Democratic Chairman Ron Brown and Labor Secretary Lynn Martin visit Larry King live. All tonight on CNN.
The three wise men, Bode, Broder, Germond, have been looking, listening, and thinking about that New Hampshire race. They join us now from Manchester. Usually at this point, a week before D-Day, candidates pull out brass knuckles. There are some definable changes in the polls, and the unexpected starts happening. Jack, what do you see?
There have been a couple things happening here in the last few days that are interesting. One is that Paul Tsongas is having his 15 minutes or longer. He's become sort of the pet rock of this campaign. And much like Gary Hart, sort of a week later in the 1984 cycle before he beat Mondale. And the other thing that's happened is that there's a write-in for Mario Cuomo, which I think is something that has to be taken seriously. It has little steam, and some polls show it as a very considerable factor, particularly compared to what's going on at the lower end of the Democratic field.
Ken?
I agree completely with Jack, especially about this Cuomo thing. I brought this along because this is not showing up in our poll right now, but it's really a factor here in New Hampshire. It's going to be. This is a state where it's possible to write in, where there's a tradition of writing in, where especially when there's a fluid electorate, which we certainly have at the present time, and you have a front runner seeming to be declining in the polls now, it's a prime time for a write-in. And the Cuomo people are going to go on television in a couple of days, and that's something brand new for a write-in campaign in New Hampshire, that they're actually advertising on television. So I guess we're going to be watching this one pretty closely in the closing days.
And Dave Brody.
Bernie, what you have here with my colleagues is a rare display of future nostalgia. These guys are imagining something that has, reliving something that has never happened and is never likely to happen. This is a race among 5 people who are on the ballot. And the notion that Mario Cuomo is going to steal this on a write-in is romantic.
In 1964, Henry Cabot Lodge was in Vietnam. 10 days out, there was no write-in.
Well, I was going to roll a grenade across the floor, Ken and Jack, because our CNN Gallup USA Today polls don't show Cuomo being a big deal.
That's because the poll hasn't put him in. There have been 2 other polls that have asked for preference and listed him a write-in for Cuomo among the choices. In those cases, he gets, in one poll, 19%, in another poll, 21%. Now, I don't suggest all those people are going to vote for him necessarily, but I think enough are going to vote for him, so he's going to be much more of a factor than Mr. Broder imagines.
Okay, well, we're not going to spend our precious airtime talking up Cuomo. If it happens, it happens. But I want to ask you this. Candidates talk about getting their message out. Are the voters in New Hampshire right now looking for a message or feel?
No, I think they're looking for a message. This has been a very serious electorate from the beginning, and the only way that you explain Paul Tsongas's rise to the top of this field, or near the top of this field, is the message. This is the least energetic, least charismatic candidate I have ever seen up here, and yet he is doing very well on the basis of message.
I think the answer to your question, Bernie, is they're looking for both, and that's the reason you're seeing at the present time Bill Clinton slipping. They're looking for the feel of somebody who can win. Tsongas's message is carrying him, but the feel that Bill Clinton might not be so electable as people thought is what's causing him to slip right now. It's not a lack of message on Clinton's part.
There's an interesting thing about Tsongas. He has made being uncharismatic sort of perversely charismatic. People like the fact that he is not a slick politician. And this is a good year not to be a slick politician.
Jack, Germond, starting with you, 1, 2, 3. What's your prediction as to how the field will finish?
If I had to bet now, today I would bet Clinton, Tsongas, Cuomo by Tuesday, maybe Tsongas, Clinton, Cuomo.
David Broder.
I'd bet Clinton, Tsongas, and Kerry third.
Mr. Bode?
All right, I'm going to bet that it's going to be Tsongas first, Cuomo second, and either Kerry or Clinton third. I think the Clinton slide will be more dramatic than my colleagues.
Gentlemen, thank you. Can't wait to see you up there later this week. Catherine?
Thanks, Bernie. Well, they may be upstaged by the Democrats, but Republicans also are on today's political playbill in New Hampshire. And coming up next on Inside Politics 92, Pat Buchanan gets up close and personal with voters, while George Bush dials long distance.
For years, I never even thought about it. Guess I just didn't want to face things. Yeah, I've been there. But now, my parents, they need real help. It's going to be tight. We'll just have to manage somehow.
I got this guy at Payne Weber. He put me in a mutual fund for my parents. Same time he set up my kid's college fund.
That long ago? How do you know about your parents back then?
He asked.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Right you are, Chevy. Every night can be Saturday night with this all-new home video collection packed with the funniest moments from each year of Saturday Night Live. A collection you can only get from Time Live Video. You'll see all those classic characters. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I am Beldar.
Well, isn't that special?
We are the Wild and Crazy Guys.
Your collection starts with the 1975 season, starring the original not ready for primetime players in their first year at the exceptionally low price of just $9.99. That's $10 off. Other videos will follow one about every 6 weeks. Buy only the ones you want. So no matter who you are,
I'm gonna be them.
Or what you are,
Killer Bee.
call toll-free now to get your first video for half price, just $9.99. The call is free.
Hello.
It's the best of Saturday Night Live, and it's time to laugh again with the not ready for primetime players. So call now.
Nothing but stars. Come along, everybody.
To order, call 1-800-533-1800 or send $9.99 plus $3.23. Shipping and handling to Best of Saturday Night Live, P.O. Box 1880, Department 2, Alexandria, Virginia 22313.
Accustomed to prime time, but today George Bush had a gig in drive time. The president gave interviews to 2 New Hampshire radio stations this morning on the phone from the White House. He's long distance now, but the president apparently thinks he needs to do more in-person politicking in New Hampshire. In addition to a visit Wednesday to formally announce his candidacy, he'll make a stump swing this coming weekend, just 2 days before the Granite State primary. And the Bush team has been trying to counter claims by challenger Pat Buchanan that the president sold out the Reagan right. Saturday, Bush got a boost from the conservative poobah himself, Ronald Reagan.
I believe that the experienced leadership of George Bush is our best hope to build a stronger America.
Reagan's endorsement for his former VP came in a videotape played at a dinner for conservative Republicans in New Hampshire. His hero may be backing Bush, but Pat Buchanan isn't backing down in his confident campaign rhetoric. The GOP presidential contender's day on the stump included a stop in Londonderry, New Hampshire. In a weekend interview, Buchanan proclaimed he has a chance to pull off a tremendous upset over Bush in New Hampshire.
President Bush continues to lead in the polls in New Hampshire. The latest numbers out last night show the president with a 65 to 28% edge in our latest CNN USA Today Gallup poll of the New Hampshire Republicans. But what story are the polling numbers telling? For that, we return to our public opinion specialist, Bill Schneider.
Well, it's interesting. You know, Bernie, half of the New Hampshire Republican voters call themselves conservatives, but Buchanan's only getting 1/3 of their vote. He's not mobilizing that conservative base. The vote that he's getting is among those New Hampshire Republicans who don't like George Bush. That's a protest vote, and 3/4 of them are voting for Buchanan. And in fact, when the Buchanan voters are asked, who would you vote for between Bush or a Democrat for president, look at this. 37% of those Buchanan voters say they would pick a Democrat over the 30% who say they'd vote for George Bush. They really don't like George Bush. But what limits Buchanan is that only 1/4 of the New Hampshire Republicans don't like George Bush. There's not enough of a protest vote to give Buchanan the real boost he needs in this primary.
But where will the Buchanan supporters go if Bush is the nominee?
Well, that's what the poll asked, and we saw that more of them say that they would vote for the Democrat than would vote for George Bush. I'm not sure that'll materialize on Election Day when they see who the Democrat is, but right now this is a group of people who are very disaffected. They're angry at George Bush. A lot of them are hurting because of the New Hampshire economy, and it's a pure protest phenomenon. It's not an ideological vote, it's a protest vote.
Bill Schneider. Catherine?
Stay with us now for a trip down Iowa's memory lane. Our Rick Allen remembers the antics of some would-be presidents and the reporters who obligingly followed along.
That Michael? Yeah, starts college next year. How's mine? Well, Mike told me the price of his first choice. I know what you mean. I got this broker at Payne Weber. She put me in a zero coupon to cover college. Huh. Well, when did she do that? It's got to be 10, 11 years. 10 years ago? How did she know that's what you needed? She asked.
Welcome to Hotel Views. Holiday Inn versus Ramada. Bob?
Susan, your dish towel. Look, I go to Holiday Inn. You want to know why? Because everybody goes there. It's a fact. Look it up.
Bob, you doorknob. Ramada gives you comfortable rooms and fine restaurants, just like Holiday, but they also give you something extra. They're so sure you'll like them better, they'll put $5 right in your hand when you switch from Holiday. See, getting extra is good. If you didn't have a vacancy sign between your ears, you'd know that. Ramada's in, Holiday's out.
In a world no bigger than the sandbox, no deeper than the mud between toes, it's spray and wash that has gotten out the food, grease, and grass the little ones get into more than any other stain remover ever made. And that has given more mothers the quiet strength to send them back out into that little world to do it all over again. More than any other stain remover, spray and wash gets out what America gets into.
In Switzerland, Ricola has been soothing sore throats and relieving coughs naturally for over 60 years. Ricola is a blend of 10 organically grown alpine herbs and natural flavors, providing pleasant-tasting natural relief. Ricola, the natural choice for soothing sore throats and relieving coughs naturally.
Return to the good old days, candidates in the frigid cornfields, a political reporter on every street corner. Our media and politics man, Rick Allen, remembers the charms of Iowa when the caucuses mattered. Rick?
To be in Sioux City, Catherine, when the wind chill falls to 40 below. Any political reporter will tell you it's a lot more fun to be in New Hampshire. It's usually warmer there. Unless you have to go to Dixville Notch, the distances aren't too bad. And more to the point, New Hampshire's primary does a much better job of picking out presidents. 4 years ago, the media went nuts over Iowa, a traffic jam of satellite dishes, credentials for 2,500 journalists, more than the Super Bowl. Today, this skywalk above downtown Des Moines is quiet. On the Sunday before the last caucuses, the heir to one of America's great petrochemical fortunes, Pierre S. DuPont IV, campaigned by rolling in a putt and celebrated the free publicity. Candidates would do anything for the cameras.
I'll eat that one.
Cook anything. Eat anything. Play anything. And say anything.
We won the ice cream poll, as you just learned, and on Saturday it was announced, or Friday, that we had won the cess poll. So we're ahead on ice cream. We're ahead on flush toilets. And we hope we're both going to be ahead tonight.
No one remembers what he was talking about. But reporters covered all the candidates like lint. Bruce Babbitt went 23 miles on this ride, and so did the press. The cold streets and the long distances might have been worth it if the results had mattered. But as President Gephardt and President Dole demonstrated, Iowa's winners don't always travel well.
Which way do we go?
For the most part, the Iowa caucuses are a test of organizing. Doing well there used to be a much bigger deal because it came as a surprise. George McGovern and Jimmy Carter made Iowa a calling card to the rest of the nation. They were news. Once we began over-covering Iowa, the caucuses lost a lot of their significance. This year, we're ignoring them because of Tom Harkin. In '96, we may ignore them because they've outlived their usefulness. Catherine?
Thanks, Rick. And we'll be live with the latest from the Iowa caucuses on Inside Politics 92 tonight at 12:30 Eastern.